Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something truly fascinating, a spiritual path that's all about love, connection, and has shaped cultures for centuries. We're talking about the mystical heart of Islam, Sufism.
All right, let's just jump right in with a question that really gets to the heart of this. What if faith wasn't just about rules and doctrines? What if it was a love story? A passionate, all-consuming quest for a connection with the divine? That right there, that's the core idea that drives Sufism.
Okay, so what exactly is Sufism? I mean, where did it even come from? Let's dig into its origins.
So, here's the thing. At its core, Sufism isn't just about going through the motions of external rituals. No, it's all about the inner journey. It's this deep, personal, and really intimate search for a direct experience of God. The whole focus is on purifying your own heart and soul.
And you know, what's really interesting is how it got started. It actually began as a kind of counter-movement. See, as the early Islamic empire was getting bigger and more powerful, some people started to worry that it was all becoming a bit too worldly, too focused on wealth and just, rigid laws. So Sufism grew out of these early groups who were like, hey, let's get back to the spiritual heart of Islam.
All right, to really get a handle on Sufism, we've got to look at its core philosophy. Let's dive into the big ideas that really shape the entire Sufi worldview.
Okay, this concept right here is absolutely central. Wahdat al-Wujud. It's this idea that deep down, everything in the universe, you, me, the stars, everything, is just a different expression of one single divine reality. So for a Sufi, the ultimate goal isn't just to worship God from a distance, it's to realize this incredible unity, to let go of that feeling of being a separate self and truly experience that we are all part of one single whole.
Now, getting to that feeling of unity, that's a huge transformation, and it involves two really key stages. The first is called Fana. Think of it as self-annihilation. It's where your ego, all your worldly attachments and desires, just dissolve in the presence of the divine. But it doesn't stop there. That's followed by Baqa, or Subsistence. This is where, after being purified, you come back into the world, but you're different. You're no longer driven by your old ego. You're more like a clear channel for the divine.
And this experience, it can sound pretty radical, right? I mean, take the famous declaration by the early Sufi master Mansur al-Hejaz, I am God. Now hold on. This wasn't him saying, hey, I'm a god. Not at all. It was his way of expressing that he had experienced Fana so completely, so totally, that the line between his individual self and the divine had just disappeared.
So this whole transformation isn't just some random chaotic thing. It's actually a pretty structured path. It starts with purifying your basic earthly desires. Then you move on to cleansing your spiritual heart of all that negativity and attachment. After that, the goal is to illuminate your spirit with divine light. The final stages get even deeper, really emptying out those ego-driven parts of yourself. And here's the key. You don't do this alone. This journey is almost always guided by a spiritual teacher, known as a Murshid.
Okay, so we've talked about the big ideas, but how did this actually play out in the real world? Let's zero in on one of the most important figures in Sufism, a man who brought these very teachings to the Indian subcontinent. This is Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti. He was a Persian scholar, but he's better known by his affectionate title, Garib Nawaz, which means benefactor of the poor. This man is a giant. He's the one who brought the incredibly influential Chishti order of Sufism to India. And in doing so, he completely changed the spiritual landscape of the entire region.
In his life, it was one incredible journey. He was born in Persia, traveled all across Central Asia, studied with his master in Afghanistan, and then eventually he made his way to India. He settled down in Ajmer, in what is now Rajasthan, and set up a spiritual center that is still a major hub of devotion today.
You have to remember, this was a time of a lot of political turmoil. And into this world comes Moinuddin Chishti with this radical message of love and service. He taught that the true path to God was through ishq, an intense, divine love. And he said that the highest form of worship wasn't some complicated ritual. It was simply serving other people, no matter who they were, what their religion was, or what caste they belonged to.
And his legacy? It didn't stop with him, not by a long shot. It was carried on by this incredible line of disciples who set up Chishti centers all over India. They turned places like Delhi into major hubs for Sufi learning and practice. We're talking about legendary figures like Qutbuddin Bakhtiar Kaki and the famous Nizamuddin Auliya. They made sure this message of love and unity just kept spreading.
So when these ideas arrived in India, they didn't just stay tucked away in some quiet spiritual corner. No, They exploded onto the scene, sparking a massive cultural and social transformation.
The impact was just huge, and you could see it everywhere. For one, it pushed for social equality, directly challenging the really rigid caste system. It also created this amazing cultural fusion, mixing different traditions in art, poetry, and especially music. And it was a huge boost for literature in local languages, which meant that these deep spiritual ideas were suddenly available to everybody, not just a handful of elites.
And maybe one of the most amazing things that happened was how Sufism found this spiritual echo in India's own Bhakti movement. I mean, think about it. Both of them were pushing back against rigid, formal religion. Both of them were all about having a personal, emotional, love-filled connection to the divine. Ishq for the Sufis, Bhakti for the Hindus. It was like two different paths leading to the same peak, and it created this beautiful spiritual conversation that brought people together.
Okay, so that's all fascinating history, but why are we talking about this now? After all these centuries, why does Sufism still matter so much? Let's get into its timeless lessons.
Well, look around. We live in a world that can feel pretty divided, right? Full of extremism. Sufism's teachings offer a powerful antidote to all that. Its focus on universal love, on tolerance, on finding that divine connection inside yourself. It's a perfect model for building bridges between faiths. And honestly, it's a great remedy for that feeling of spiritual emptiness that a lot of people feel today.
And that really brings us to the final and maybe most important question for us right here, right now. In a world that often feels so fractured, the Sufi path kind of challenges us to look past all the labels and all the things that separate us. It leaves us with this question: what could our world look like if we all tried to walk a path guided by universal love and a genuine search for unity?